So let's go back just for a moment to your religious upbringing. Tell me what led up to your conversion, if you would, and why did you move away from Christianity or Buddhism or all the things that you were exposed to when you were
well,
growing up?
I was in a head-on collision and survived a car accident that the California Highway Patrol said I shouldn't have survived. And I had what they call a near-death experience. I got very interested in what happens after you die. I realized that I could have very easily transitioned. And so I was very interested in what happens after death. I actually went and met with Dr. Raymond Moody, who wrote the books on life after life. And he did a lot of the work with near-death people that had.
Can I ask you what happened in your near-death experience?
I think it was pretty classic. You know, I definitely saw I went into a very different spatial temporal state where everything went into a kind of slow motion. And it was as if the glass was just suspended in air from the crash. And then I just saw like my inception all the way up to that moment. And I just saw my whole life, literally. And it was just this, as if I lived my life a second time, but in a moment. That was the experience.
And what did that do for you, that experience? How did it change?
One, it made me, you know, at the time I was a senior in high school, my probably biggest interests were baseball and other things, but music was certainly a big interest. My family, I come from a family of musicians. So I think what it did is it made me really think about death in a very deep way. And if you've ever seen, there's a film about a man who's in a plane crash, and then he survives the plane crash. And it's a man who had a lot of fears, but he comes out of it. Jeff Bridges is the person, and he's like looking at his hands and, am I alive or am I dead? I was in that state for about 2 weeks. It was a very strange state to be in, and that got me interested in what religions say about after death. And so I decided to study all the world religions just from that perspective. And the one that really, really resonated and struck me as having a very, very powerful description was the Islamic tradition. And I actually ended up, ironically, writing in the study Quran, which was published by Harper. I ended up writing the essay on death in the Quran, which is how I actually became Muslim.